I met Jessica when I was in college, and honestly, I thought she was the one I was going to marry. We got engaged after about 3 years of dating, and I was proud of how everything seemed perfect. She was beautiful, confident, and always knew how to make me feel special. We had our share of fights, sure, but I figured that was normal. Still, there were some signs. She was a bit secretive about her phone, always hiding it when I came around, and she had this weird attitude sometimes that I just brushed off as her being bitchy or stressed out. But the biggest red flags didn't hit me until recently. She started acting distant in the weeks leading up to the wedding. I remember she was more focused on her phone than on me. She canceled plans at the last minute, and sometimes she'd get this strange look on her face when I tried to talk to her about our future. I even caught her lying once about where she was. She said she was at her friend's house, but her phone showed she was somewhere else entirely. Small things, but I justified them as pre-wedding. Nerves or her being overwhelmed. Then came the wedding itself. Everything was supposed to be perfect. I was excited, nervous, proud. But that night after the reception, I stayed in the hotel room alone because Jessica decided to go out with her friends. I wasn't too worried, she had done it before. But I couldn't sleep. I was replaying the night, thinking about how she looked in her dress, how she smiled at the vows, the way she looked at me during the ceremony. That's when I decided to check her phone, even though I knew I probably shouldn't. I had this gut feeling and I just needed to see. Maybe I'd find something harmless, just pre-wedding jitters. What I found instead hit me like a punch to the gut. Her messages with Mark, my best man. Their texts were intimate, flirty, not just friendly banter but stuff that crossed the line. They were talking about spending nights together, about her feeling alive when she was with him, about how she hated the idea of waiting until after the wedding to be with him. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She was sleeping with him behind my back all long, and I had zero idea. The worst part, they had been doing this during our entire engagement and I was just too blind to see it. I remember sitting there in the dark, trying to breathe, trying to process what I'd just seen. My stomach twisted, and anger bubbled up so fast I thought my head would explode. How could she lie to me? How could she pretend to be this perfect wife when she was secretly screwing my best man? I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly like I'd been played for a fool. That moment right there changed everything. That was the beginning of the end of my marriage, and I knew I'd have to confront her. I just didn't know how deeply this betrayal would cut. I couldn't sleep after I found those texts. I kept staring at the screen, reading the words over and over, trying to make sense of it all. It was like a punch in the stomach every time I read a new message. They were so casual, so intimate, like they were already planning their life together after I was out of the picture. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the chest. My mind raced, trying to find some explanation, some way this could be a misunderstanding, but deep down I knew better. There was no misinterpreting those messages. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it then and there. I waited until the morning, trying to calm my anger and get some clarity. When she came back to the hotel, looking fresh and innocent, I was already boiling inside. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I waited until we were alone, then I asked her about her phone. Her face changed instantly, a mixture of guilt and hostility. She started to spin her usual bullshit, said that I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of something she didn't do, that I was overthinking everything because I was nervous about the wedding. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about her and Mark, that I had proof, and that I was done pretending. Her reaction was shocking. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said I was crazy. She told me I was imagining things, that maybe I'd been too stressed and I was hallucinating. She lied so smoothly, so convincingly, I almost started to doubt myself. That's when I realized she was a master at deception. She's the type who will lie so easily she believes her own bullshit, and she's done it before. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I told her I saw the messages, that I knew everything, and asked her flat out, was she sleeping with Mark? The look she shot me was venomous. She sneered and said, "Oh, come on, really? You're crazy. You think I'd cheat on you? Mark's just a friend. You're overreacting as usual." I felt my blood boil. How can someone lie with such confidence, like they're the innocent victim? That moment I saw her true colors: manipulative, bitchy, cold. I knew then that I couldn't trust her anymore. The woman I thought I knew was just a mask she wore to hide her lies. That confrontation was a nightmare. The more she lied, the more I realized how deep her deception went. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. How dare she play me for a fool? How dare she cheat on me with my best man and then try to deny everything? I wanted to scream, to shout, to break something, but I held it in. I knew I had to keep my composure, at least for now. Deep down, I already knew this wasn't just about the cheating. It was about betrayal, about the fact that she'd been lying to me for months. That's when I started to think about what I should do next. After I confronted her and she kept denying everything, I felt like my world was crumbling. It was like this huge, heavy weight sitting on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I couldn't believe she was capable of such a lie, that she could look me in the eye and deny what I saw with my own damn eyes. I felt so stupid, so naive. All those late nights I spent trusting her, thinking she was the one, and it turned out she was sneaking around with the best man at our wedding. How do you even process something like that? But what hurt even more was her attitude afterward. She kept insisting she was innocent, calling me paranoid for accusing her without proof, even though I had the damn proof right there in her phone. She said I was just insecure, that she'd never do something so disgusting, and that I was overreacting because I was nervous about the wedding. That's when I realized her pattern. She's the kind of woman who can lie so easily that she convinces herself she's telling the truth. I saw the smirk when she said those things, the way she looked at me like I was the crazy one. It made me realize how much she's done this kind of thing before, with other people, with other men. The emotional roller coaster hit me hard. I felt rage, confusion, sadness, and a kind of numbness all at once. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I'd always thought she was just a little bitchy, a little manipulative maybe, but never that she'd do something so cruel. I even caught myself wondering if I was overreacting, if maybe I just misinterpreted her behavior. But I knew deep down that I was. Those texts didn't lie. They told the whole story, and it was one of betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the discovery in my head. The look on her face, the words she said, the way she denied everything so convincingly. I felt shattered, like someone had taken a hammer to my chest. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was feeling this immense sadness, this sense that I'd lost my best friend, the woman I was supposed to spend my life with. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wanted to leave immediately, to cut her out of my life completely. But I also knew I needed time to think, to process what I just learned, and to decide if I could even trust her again. That's when I realized I had a choice. I could either confront her again, push for explanations, or start planning my next move. I didn't want her to think she could just lie her way out of this. I wanted her to face the truth. I wanted her to know I wasn't some fool who would accept her bullshit. So in the silence of that night, I decided I'd have to take control. Whatever came next, I was not going to be the one left with the broken pieces. I knew I had to be smart about this, but honestly, part of me just wanted to wreak havoc on her life, to make her pay for what she did. That's where I was mentally when I drifted off to sleep, furious, betrayed, and already plotting how I'd get my revenge. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and everything from yesterday kept replaying in my mind. I knew I couldn't just sit around and feel sorry for myself. I had to act, so I started planning my next move. First, I needed more proof, not just the messages I'd found, but some tangible evidence that I could use if I decided to confront her again, or worse, take legal action. I wasn't just going to walk away after all this. I had to come prepared. I spent hours combing through her phone and my laptop, digging for any other hidden chats, emails, or pictures. I wanted to make sure I had everything. Meanwhile, Jessica was acting even more bitchy than usual, snapping at me for no reason, throwing around petty insults like I was the one who screwed up. But I didn't care. I was fixated on what I'd do next. The thought of her lying to my face again made me furious. I knew I needed a plan that would hit her where it hurt and make her regret ever crossing that line. I decided I'd set a trap. I knew she'd try to deny everything again, so I wanted to catch her in the act. I texted her that I was going to be out all afternoon, claiming I had some work emergency. Instead, I went to her phone, downloaded her recent messages, and took screenshots. I also found some pictures she'd hidden, showing her and Mark together. It was clear she'd been lying about their relationship. She'd even sent him a nude, which I never expected from someone who pretended to be so innocent. While I was gathering everything, she was upstairs, acting like she was innocent, pretending to be doing her makeup or whatever. But I knew better. I knew her game. When I finally came back, I was calm but cold. Her face immediately tensed up when she saw the serious look in my eyes. That's when I dropped the bombshell. I played her own messages from her phone right there in front of her. I told her that I knew everything about her affair, her lies, her manipulation. Her reaction was classic. She started shouting, calling me crazy, saying I planted the messages, accusing her of being a slut, and so on. But I had enough proof to drown out her lies. I told her I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I wanted a real answer. Was she sleeping with Mark or not? Her face twisted, her bitchy smirk fading for a moment, then she snapped back. You're just jealous. You're insecure. Mark's just a friend and you're overreacting. That's when I knew I had to escalate. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore, letting her spin her web of lies while she kept cheating behind my back. I told her I was done with her games, that she could pack her shit and leave if she wanted. I didn't care if she called me crazy or a jealous idiot. I'd seen the truth, and I was finally going to do something about it. I felt a strange mix of relief and pure rage. This wasn't just about breaking up. I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted her to understand what betrayal really meant. That day, I started pulling away emotionally. I didn't want her to see how much she'd hurt me, but inside I was already planning my revenge. I wanted her to regret ever cheating, to understand that her lies would catch up to her. I wanted her to pay the price for turning my life upside down. And as much as it hurt to think about ending everything, I knew deep down it was the only way to make her see how serious I was. If she thought she could get away with it, I was going to show her she was wrong. After I handed her the evidence and told her to get out, everything changed in an instant. She went from being defiant to furious, her bitchy attitude turning into pure rage. She started screaming at me, calling me all kinds of names: jealous, paranoid, crazy, and worse. But I didn't care. The damage was done. She crossed the line, and I wasn't going to pretend she was innocent anymore. Watching her yell and throw her tantrum was oddly satisfying, even if it was also heartbreaking. I knew she was losing control, just as I thought she would. She tried to lie her way out of it one last time, claiming she'd only been talking to Mark as some sort of emotional affair, not actual sex. She said she was confused, that she didn't want to hurt me but couldn't help herself. It was bullshit, but I listened, mostly just to hear her spin her web. Deep down, I knew she was lying. She'd already admitted to sleeping with him, even sent me pictures. That was the final nail in the coffin. I told her I didn't want her excuses, that I'd heard enough. She could leave now and not to bother trying to come back. The way she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, I felt this strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her, gotten some closure, and took control of the situation. But underneath that, I was also devastated. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had betrayed me. So badly I wondered if I'd ever recover. Still, I knew I had to do what was best for me. The next step was deciding whether to fight for the marriage or to cut it loose completely. In the following days, I started to piece everything together. I reached out to a lawyer just to understand my options, and I blocked her on everything. I didn't want to see her or hear from her again until I was ready. I also told some close friends what happened. Some of them already knew she was acting strange, but none of us suspected something this serious. As the shock started to wear off, I realized I'd been living in denial. I'd always believed that love could conquer all, but now I saw the truth. Some betrayals cut so deep that trust can't be repaired. And honestly, I'm still not sure if I want to. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that sometimes you have to face the ugly truth head-on. No matter how much it hurts, ignoring the signs or pretending everything's fine only makes it worse. I also learned that some people, women like Jessica, are capable of lies so convincing that you start questioning everything about yourself, and that's dangerous. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this chaos and I'll come out the other side. Maybe not better, but definitely wiser. And honestly, that's a hard-earned lesson I wouldn't trade for anything. In the aftermath, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on everything. It's been a brutal journey, but I've come to realize that I deserved better than someone who could lie and cheat so effortlessly. Jessica's betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the manipulation, and how she tried to convince herself she was innocent even as she was destroying everything we built. That kind of betrayal leaves scars, but it also teaches you who you really are. I've started focusing on myself now, rebuilding my confidence and learning to trust my instincts again. I won't lie, some days are harder than others. I still think about her, about what I lost, about the dreams we had. But those thoughts are tempered by the clarity I've gained. I know I'll be okay. I know I'll find happiness again, even if it's not with her. The biggest lesson I want to share is this: never ignore the signs. If someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't make excuses, don't justify their bad behavior. Because in the end, honesty and fidelity are the foundation of any real relationship. If those are gone, everything else crumbles. And if you find yourself in a similar situation, betrayed, hurt, or just confused, remember, you're not alone. You have to be strong enough to face the truth, even when it hurts, because only then can you truly move forward. Trust me, I'm still healing every day, but I'm also finally free from the lie that almost destroyed me. And that's the best thing I could ask for.